Hello and welcome to the channel. In this video I'm going to do a MIG and TIG comparison video on a car body panel. I've got this mini rear quarter as my donor piece, and I just want to run you through the processes and do it side by side so you can basically see what's involved and the differences, the problems it causes and stuff like that really. So I'm then going to go on to a bit of cleaning up and the end result, just so you can see the finish that's involved. Yeah, it's just, I'm not going to it's not a tutorial as such, it's just a comparison. So if you're not familiar basically with the TIG process or the MIG on the car body panel side of it, it just gives you a bit of an idea of what's involved if you were to think, do you know what, I wouldn't mind giving TIG a go, but how do I use it and what's it going to end up looking like? So hopefully this is just a basic video on the two processes on a car panel. Okay, so this is the panel I've just made, very simple 90 section there, and this is the corroded section that I want to replace. So very similar to hopefully what you may come across on your classic cars, and like it says, MIG and TIG, I want to do them side by side like this so you can then see the pros and cons, what's involved in both procedures, and give you a good idea of basically how to go about it and where you might use this process. So what I'm now going to do is mark this panel and then cut this corroded section out, then I'm going to tack it using both processes. Okay, so that's the old panel chopped out there. The new panel is ready to go in there. You may notice I've just softened the ends up, and that's always best when welding in a panel. You don't want to weld into a corner as that's a heat bulk. And it gathers up and you're more likely to get distortion. So if you weld around the corner, it just spreads the heat nicely. It's a little tip there. So like it says, I'm going to MIG this side, TIG this side. First of all, I'm going to tack it into place, and before I tack it, I'll just show you the differences between each process so it gives you an idea of what I'm actually going to be doing. Okay, so a very simple side-by-side comparison. MIG is what we're all probably most familiar with, so I'll start with this one. You simply press the trigger, which then feeds the wire through and the gas through the tip, and on impact it then creates an arc, and then the wire melts in that molten pool, the gas shields it, and this creates your weld. So with the TIG it's a little bit different. So as you can see here, it's got a point coming out. You simply press the trigger, the gas comes out, this strikes onto the metal. Then that creates a molten pool, and you can either fuse the two bits together or you separately add rod. So you have different types of rod for different materials. So this is where it becomes a little bit more trickier. You have to be quite precise with the TIG, whereas MIG, I don't know, it kind of caters more for the beginner, but obviously it does have its use in professional car bodywork. So I'm not ruling out that one, but this as a starting point is great, and this is more for your more advanced skill set. Okay, so before I start, this isn't a tutorial. I'm not trying to preach to you how this should be done. I'm just literally showing you the differences. Now this is my way of doing it. I'm not saying this is the correct way and everyone should do it this way. This is just the way that I do it. So I know a lot of people will leave a gap for the MIG welding. I personally don't. I like to have it a nice tight butt joint, and I think with the setting that I have with the MIG, I get enough penetration through, so I don't need any gap that a lot of people do. I'm not saying that that's wrong, that's just their method, it's not my method. So I'm just going to go with what I know and just hopefully pass that knowledge on to you. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple of tacks on this panel just to hold it in place. Every time I put a tack, I'm then just going to give it a blast of air. This will cool the panel down, shrink the material back to where it should be, because if we get too much heat, then we get a lot of distortion and the panel will move. So this is what we want to reduce. And that is all there is to it. Okay, so now on to the TIG welding. I aim to fuse the two bits together using as little rod as possible. Only when the material starts separating will I actually apply a bit of rod, because I aim to just fuse the two bits together. I don't need to cool any of the weld down on this one like I did with the MIG, so there's very little heat generated. Okay, and from the rear of the panel, as you can see, we've got loads of penetration already through. Probably a bit too much, to be quite honest with you. And if you can't get to this will cause you a problem when dressing up. But with the TIG, it's just come through, but that's enough because that's joined the panel. As you can see, it's gone all the way through and made a joint, a nice sealed joint. So we've got enough strength in that TIG joint there, and we've got all this excess material on the MIG. Okay, so we got both welds side by side. Took a very similar time to do both runs. Here, I will admit, I've got a couple of functions on the TIG torch and I thought it wasn't going right, and then I looked at the machine and my amps had dropped. So I turned them back up and then I started back on that run again there. So it's a little bit cool here, but I thought I'd continue anyway for demonstration purposes. So starting with the TIG, as you can see, it's a nice thin run. I haven't put hardly any wire in there at all, literally just fused the 2 joints, and once it got round here, I was on and off the trigger all the time just to get right in that corner. So I've hardly put any heat into that panel. Right, it's really smooth. Don't know if the camera's picking that up, but hopefully once I clean all that up, you'll be able to see that properly. Then over onto the MIG, you can see the size difference there, and all this is going to have to be ground off. So one disadvantage to the MIG is all this has got to come off. So we're then going to put a load of heat back into this area. So this will just require a small hammer up and a light going over with a small Rolock disc, but this I need to get the grinder out to remove all this excess. So I'll just turn the panel over and you can see the penetration. So the rear of the panel, I'll start with the TIG. So as you can see, it's fused that joint all the way along. We haven't got masses of penetration coming through, but basically it's joined. So that is a nice solid joint. We go over onto the MIG, this is what you normally get. So the ball's coming through the other side. And as I said, where it went a bit cool, it hasn't made that joint there. You see, that's a cold edge. But then, as we've gone round, we've got penetration through there. So I'll grind all this off anyway. This can be just sort of like a realistic error, and we'll see what it looks like once I've cleaned it all off. So you can see that steam coming off there, so that's how hot this panel is getting when we're doing all the grinding. So I'll take it down to that point now. I'll then take the penetration off, then I'll give it a bit of a tap up with the hammer and dolly, and then I'll take these high spots off after. Okay, so now I'm going to dress the panel up on the MIG side. I've taken off the weld on the front and I've taken the penetration off. So one characteristic with MIG welding is it actually is quite hard. The wire, once you weld it, is hard to dress down, unlike the TIG, which you'll see. So the MIG, it's going to require more dressing up, and unless you've got access to both sides of the panel and you can take off all that material, it's going to be very hard to dress up. In this panel I have taken both sides off, so you can then see how it's going to behave. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is just run the Rolock over the top just to take the high spots off, dress it up, and then I'll clean it up afterwards. Okay, so this is the panel all cleaned up. This side is the TIG, and just around here I've got a couple of little bits of undercut, and that's from where I fused it together, so I didn't add any wire when joining this, but you wouldn't get that if you did add wire. But on the downside you would then have to up your amps a little bit to use the wire and wire that in. This side is the MIG. I don't know if you can see it. It's near enough invisible. It's very smooth and it's cleaned up just as nice as the TIG. Obviously in the process you can see there's a lot more to this with the grinding and the hammering and the cleaning up process. A lot more work involved to get it to this standard, whereas this is just a much quicker process in cleaning up, but harder to sort of master the initial part of it. So as you can see there, very smooth. I'll just move out, try and catch it in the light, but there's hardly any distortion in that panel. So as long as these processes are executed correctly and you just take your time, you should get very little distortion in your panel, whatever process you choose. So on the reverse, I haven't put as much effort into it. All I've done is literally run the grinder over the top of the penetration. So that's what I'm left with. But as long as that's bag sealed and painted, that is good enough. Okay, so that's it for this process. It's just a very quick video. I just wanted to put something together so you can see the processes side by side used on a realistic piece. It's a question I've been asked many a time, and I thought this would just be a handy video. It's not a tutorial or anything like that, it's just so you can visually see, if you're thinking about getting into TIG welding, what's involved. Basically, the end result, if both processes are executed correctly, it just turns out a good result. The MIG is no better than the TIG and the TIG's no better than the MIG on the end result. It's just the amount of effort that you have to put into to get to that end result. There's a lot of cleaning up with the MIG, there's a lot more heat generated, so you do get a bit more distortion. But if you can control those factors, you can then get it as good as the TIG. The TIG's nice and clean, harder to master as you've got to be a bit more precise, but very little in the cleaning up process. As you can see, with that you would not be able to tell what side has been done with either process. So that's just a quick video of what I just wanted to show you. So like I said, it's not a tutorial, not preaching, this is what you should be doing. It's just so you can see if you want to get into TIG welding or MIG welding in your panel, you then have a visual of what to kind of aim for, or you know. So anyway, I'm just mumbling there. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I can do some more videos like this. If anyone has any ideas, please drop us a comment. Please go like my Instagram channel, Metal Shaper Tom. And that's it for this video. Right, so thanks for watching. Ciao.